Definitely for your thesis, you have to know and understand what are the research implications for a master's degree student. Because a lot of you are not familiar with this education system. And you may make mistakes which will cause quite a lot of grief for you in future. And in order to avoid those mistakes, you have to go to the REME module. It is very, very important. I cannot stress enough the importance of that module. It has no marks, but it's not, I think it's, is it compulsory?
Yes.
It is, yeah. It has no marks, but it is compulsory, and it is compulsory for the right reasons. You have to attend. Well, you two definitely have to attend. Yes?
You just mentioned that we need to spend about 2 hours, even it's a module week,
Yes.
on PMAs.
Yes.
But don't we need to, review or look some knowledge on the module you are studying in the evening?
Good question. That depends on what the work is, right? You can start at 9. It is a suggestion. I'm not saying that you have to do it. I'm saying that this is what I did, and potentially it can work for you as well. What I did was that I personally am an insomniac, right? I sleep. It's been ever since. I sleep very late. For me, working late and waking up early, really early in the morning, is not a big issue, because I do that normally anyways. So I used to start work at 9, spend 2 hours on my PMA, and then if I had to do some work on the module as well, so I could have gone up till 2 or 3 in the morning, and then woken up next day and then come to the module. So it's entirely up to you how you manage your plan, your time. It is not compulsory. You can spend 1 hour. You can spend half an hour. You know, but it's up to you how you manage that time. I don't even know how you. What's your sleeping pattern? For me, it was very easy because I used to sleep really late in the night. So I could have given myself about 4 to 5 hours on average every day. Starting from 9 o'clock. So it's entirely up to you how you manage your time. You can do that whichever one suits you, and that's what you have to find out. That's where you have to experiment. You know, do it 2 or 3 days and see what works for you, and then keep on doing that. Yes, please.
What's your suggestion if I already have 3 PMAs very behind schedule?
Sorry. What? How many did you say?
3.
Oh my God. Just kidding. You have to prioritize. Try to finish the one that is due the closest.
Yes, that's normally people do that, but you suggest we should do it on the first week post-module.
Yes.
Yeah, and you give this presentation after 3 PMAs already. Pity.
Well, time management. Time management on behalf of the group.
So, what do you think? So, you also suggest that 1 by 1 is the best, right?
You can do it in parallel as well if you want to. Seriously. No, seriously. You can do it in parallel.
No,
If you have, I've actually done that. I was actually going to come back to this point later. I had a backlog. Sorry, not backlog. Bottleneck. In around March time, I think, where I had 3 modules and then I had to submit 3 PMAs. So, and also had to work on my thesis as well. So I ran all these activities in parallel.
How? But you're gonna spend longer than only, like, you can't finish it in 1 week, right? 3 modules.
Well, that was not my objective. I already told you, PMAs were not my priority,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
So I used to do 1 day, 1 PMA, next day, 2nd PMA, 3rd day, 3rd PMA, fourth day thesis, and then going back to the first PM. Because I was comfortable with that approach. I could do it. But that might not work for everybody. That's where you have to experiment and identify what works for you. But having said that, you don't have a lot of time to experiment. If you are taking 10 modules, you have only one module and one PMA to experiment with. Because after that, if you don't do well, that will be contributing towards your master's degree. So, experiment, learn from it, and then try to implement that later on. Okay. Project. Or do you guys want to have a break?
No.
No? Good. Okay. Sorry, may I ask, are you still awake? Are you still awake? Are you with me? Yes, you are. You're with me? Completely? 100%? Good. Okay. So, okay. It's not rocket science. Now, I know it's very easy for me to say that, but really it's not rocket science. It's very easy. It probably is the easiest thing you might have done in your career so far. But only if you understand how to approach things and what works for you. Everybody is unique in this room. No two people are the same. What might work for you may never work for me. And same is the case for everybody in this room. Because this is the beauty of people. Everybody brings their own experiences, their own circumstances, their own knowledge, their own interpretation of things. There are so many variables when you involve human beings into anything. And that's the beauty of project management. So it's not rocket science. It's very well structured following of steps that you have to take in order to produce the work that you're going to do. So that says failing to plan is planning to fail. If you don't learn anything, and this specifically is for all the PPM students, this is very, very important for your career, future career. Plan, 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 and when you are tired of planning, do more planning. It's very important to do your plans. Now, my students will recognize this. This is the format that I used. This is the format that my students are using. And this is the format that I would suggest if you want to plan. One of the formats you can use to actually map out all your activities. What's your deadline for submission? Come on, guys! What's your deadline for submission? For your thesis? Next year? Sorry?
30th of August.
30th of August. Good. Okay. So you need to plan backwards from 30th of August 2013 until Monday 2nd, I think, of December 2012. Sorry, nobody said it's going to be easy. No one said it's going to be easy. But unless and until you do that, how are you going to do it? You have to. Because if you don't plan your activities, how are you going to know what are your bottlenecks? What are your risks? Where you think you may fall behind. So you have to plan all your activities, all your PMAs in there. Put your PMAs in there. Put your modules in there. And see where are the bottlenecks. There are a few different columns in there. So what's your task? It can be a PMA, it can be a module. What's your optimistic duration? And be truthful to your own self. Nobody's going to judge you on this. Well, apart from YouTube, I'm going to judge you on this. What's your optimistic view of how long it will take you? Oh, I'm going to do it in 1 week. No, I'm going to do it in 5 days. I'm very optimistic. I've learned my lessons. I'm going to do it in 5 days. Then comes the pessimistic view. No, I don't think I can do it in 5 days. I might fall, I might fall sick. I might, somebody can hit me and run away. Something can happen to me. I think it will take me 5 weeks to do a PMA. So that's my pessimistic view. And then the actual duration. This is, you will have to capture this and be realistic about it once you have delivered and submitted your PMA. This is only when you've submitted that you will find out how long it actually took you after the module was over. The reason you need this is to tell you how far off are you on your radar. If your radar is not working properly, you need to tweak it. You need to tune it in order to understand. And with the passage of time, you will be very optimistic and very pessimistic for the first few items on this plan. But with the passage of time, you will start to understand and you will get better at your pessimistic and optimistic assessment and analysis of how long it will take you. And that will help you manage your time even better. Then obviously for timeline perspective, you need your start date, your end date, and percentage complete. These three things are basically for your supervisor. It will be good for your supervisors to actually know what's the current status of your dissertation, right? I've asked my students to create this plan. They've done it. They've created the first draft. Now I've asked my students to send me a monthly status report based on the plan. And I will be monitoring that because this plan is published. Now your supervisor might not adopt this approach. I will. And I am going to monitor and control this with my students. So those three columns basically are for me and for my students to actually monitor what the progress they've made, when they were supposed to start something, when they've actually supposed to finish something, what's the current percentage of that task that they were supposed to do this week, blah, blah, blah. Status, again, same for update purpose for your supervisor. What's the status? Dependency, this is a very MS Project concept. If anybody has used Microsoft Project product, this is basically from that. So you just want to identify what other activities are depending on some other activities in there, and you basically are trying to manage the dependencies in there. And the last one is any comments you would like to capture. Normally there is a standard for putting comments in the professional world. You start off with the date, and then you put 3-letter code for your month, and then you put your initials, and then put all the comments. So you can actually track when and who actually put the comments in that plan. Because this is published online for my students, I can go and put some comments in there, and they will straight away pick it up that, okay, Saad went in there and he put some comments in, so I need to work something out of that. So they are not depending on me, or they're not waiting for me to actually physically get back to them. Because it's a live plan, anybody can go in and see it and check it between the three of us. So that's the concept. That's how I worked. That's how I kept my supervisor updated with my progress on my thesis. And not just from a supervisor's perspective, but from your own personal perspective, this is very important because it will tell you what activities you need to follow, when to follow them, how long it will take you, and how to manage your time. Oops. And something very similar to the plan discussion. You need to let your plan dictate your life. Academic life, not social, obviously. Academic life in Warwick should be dictated by your plan. You should not be doing anything academically in Warwick that is not on your plan. Because that means that you're failed in planning. Obviously, risks are a separate category. What you don't know, you don't know. But you can at least try and analyze what risk might you encounter. You will never know that when you will get sick. It doesn't come on time. You know, oh, Tuesday, Ahmad, get sick today. It doesn't work that way. But that's a risk that you should set aside some contingency in your plan. But you know, if you create the plan, that you have a bottleneck of 3 back-to-back modules. Now that's a risk that you can actually manage. And you should manage. But you won't find out about that risk if you don't plan. Now, going back to the same discussion, I treated my PMAs as mini theses. And I learned a lot from my PMAs, like time management, how to do research, how to structure a PMA and a written piece of work, that kind of stuff. So again, it might not work for you, or somebody else might tell you something completely different, but that's what worked for me and how I did stuff. So I'm just sharing what I learned. Structure is very important. Not just from a PMA perspective, but thesis perspective as well. It's all about structure. There needs to be a flow. It shouldn't be. I think there isn't. No, sorry. Go back. So your project should be well structured. It should be a flow in your project. If you don't produce a flow, it's just a random collection of words. And nobody likes to read a random collection of words. So structure is very important. And the best tip on structure I can give you is that start reading the books. So whenever you're reading a book or an article, look at how they have structured their work. There's probably introduction, there's probably background, there's probably what that book is telling you. How they have structured their work, that will teach you a lot. Because every book is a flow, is a story, telling a story. And your thesis should tell a story as well. Okay, so in the previous slide I referenced Project Wednesdays. This is something that I adopted when I was doing my PMAs and when I was also required to work on my thesis. For me, January onwards, every Wednesday, whether I was in module or whether I didn't have any module, was Project Wednesday. I was only working on my project, on my thesis. No PMAs, no module work. That Wednesday was dedicated to my thesis. And that's where I was referring that you can basically change the days whichever works for you. But this worked for me. Because I knew whatever is happening, that Wednesday I'm working on my thesis.
What about the lecture?
Sorry?
What about the lecture?
Yeah, like nighttime. So if I'm in module, I was utilizing the nighttime from 9 till 2 or 3 in the morning. If I was not in module, then the full day of Wednesday was spent on my thesis. Yes, please.
On average, how many hours did you spend on your thesis?
Oh,
Every Wednesday, that is. No.
per day.
Per day, yeah.
It's difficult to average that out. I would say it's about 15, 16 hours.
Okay.
But that's just the average of all the full days.
Yes.
If I was working during a module,
Yeah.
I would say about 5. So from 9 p.m. till 2 a.m. in the morning. Every Wednesday. But that's what I'm telling you, that was my preference, that was my choice, my focus. I didn't care about PMAs that much. For me, my thesis was everything for me. So I had to spend that amount of time on it. So that's the point I'm referring to. You need to tell a story. If you don't tell a story, it is just a random collection of words. And nobody likes to read a random collection of words. Tell me one book which has no, sequence, which has no links with the previous chapter. They will be, but not a lot. Every book has a sequence. Every book has a structure. They follow a structure. You should follow a structure. You should tell a story. Why are you doing this? How is it helping the world, practical world outside? That kind of stuff. So don't just think about references. Think about how you're going to use those references. How can actually you take something out of those reference books and tell your own story? Because it is about your story. Whatever you're going to research, do your research on. Probability is that almost you'll find a lot of material already on it. So in essence, you don't need to do that research because there's a lot of research already been done. But it's about your perspective on things. It's about your research. What are you finding? IT project management is a failure. Everybody knows that. It's a huge, huge failure. Almost, I think, Yerkish, you were telling me that globally, average is about 70% failure for IT projects? 60%. 60% failure, IT projects. That's across all the different functions within IT. Now, 60% is a huge, huge number. But still, every year, students still come and do research on IT. IT project management, IT risk management, different processes. Why? Because they want to have their own perspective and they want to try to find their own things in that arena. You have a question?
No,
Oh. So yeah, you have to tell your story. You have to tell a story and it should be yours. And I know that when Ned is going to see this, he's probably going to kick my behind on this. But you need to decide on your scope / title. I use / in there because for me, both are related. They're not separate things. You can't have scope and title. It has to be interrelated. So you need to decide on your scope and / title by February. Because I've experienced students who were still changing their titles by June. And that did not end well. So you need to focus on your title first. Now, I'm not necessarily saying that you have to lock down once you've locked down your scope, and that's it. You're not going to read anything else. No. That's my scope, that's it. No, that's not true. read about it, but get your title sorted out first. For me, personally, every single word in your title is your scope element. If you add or remove something from your title, that potentially can change the whole scope of your project. You want to do a project in ERP implementation, right? If I add a word ERP and Oracle implementation, how big a change do you think that will be?
Huge.
It's just one word, but that completely changes the whole scope of your project. So you have to finalize that scope, finalize that title with your supervisor as early as possible. This is something that's related to your data finding, interview review, analysis, design, questionnaires, interviews, that kind of stuff. Be clever about your sources. I wish in my time LinkedIn was so readily available that is right now. Facebook was so popular in my time that is right now. It was so easy to get hold of resources and people, the easy it is right now. I would have, I would have done something. I would have crashed the party every time.
You would have finished in May probably.
Oh
right?
yes. But you guys don't even realize how lucky you are to have these resources available to you. It's readily available, and I'm amazed that how disconnected you guys are from internet. And you can prove me wrong, but what I have experienced and what I've seen is that you guys are still very disconnected from internet. You are not utilizing its full potential.
We use Skype, we use Facebook.
Sorry?
We use Skype and Facebook, and most of us.
So start using them. Start using them. Identify resources. LinkedIn can, I think there are more than few million professionals on LinkedIn. Whichever field you want to choose in, whichever field you want to do your research in, chances are that you're going to find at least more than 100 professionals on LinkedIn around that. Your research. Why not use it? Go ahead, search for it. And there are articles, there are discussions happening all around the globe on LinkedIn. Every single day, every single second, there's something new happening on LinkedIn. Go, fish for information. Be clever about these things. And once you are ready to publish your, if you are going down the route of a questionnaire, try to find out the governing bodies in your field of specialty that you are trying to do. For example, Jurgis is doing IT. There is British Computer Society. You can approach them and ask them to help you publish your questionnaire onto their e-newsletter, because that goes to every IT professional in the UK. You have, for the project managers in the room, or PPM students in the room, you have PMI, you have APM, you have all these different governing organizations. You can approach them, and I think most of them, all they ask is that you write an article for them. Now, isn't that a win-win situation? You're getting your questionnaire published, and then you're writing an article for them as well, which is going to be published. That will look so good on your CV, you have no idea. That will be better than a distinction, actually. Oh, I have a distinction in program and project management from Warwick University. Well, I have 5 published articles in APM, in PMI. Which one would you choose? You tell me. So start thinking about these things. I know it's a lot of information to consume right now, but that's why we are recording this, so you can go back and see it. But try to get as much information and try to absorb it. Learn what the message is, not the face value of that message. Learn what it's actually telling you. Try to understand that. Okay, so this one tool that I really would like to share with you guys is that it basically, if I have to attribute something towards my distinction, this tool on its own I can attribute about 50% of my effort and all that to this tool. It looks very simple, but this Excel sheet is what helped me probably get my distinction. Now, considering I didn't have EndNote or any of such fancy softwares in my time, it took me nearly 3 weeks just to understand what do I need and then create this sheet. I'm just briefly going to spend some time on this because I know that we are already 20 past 8 and you guys are getting woozy. Please, by the way, help yourself to food if anybody wants to. So, or should we take 5 minutes break and everybody can get some food and then we can reconvene? Yeah, let's take 5 minutes break then.
Can I just say, next week we've got a Skype lecture from Mr. Balokoma.